Hi, everyone. I guess we'll talk about this new rule for mortgages. Everyone's talking about it, so let's give it a whirl. Then we'll go over day traders losing a bunch of money on zero DTE options. Then we'll get into the charts. And then we'll look at my results for the day and my thoughts going into Monday's session. Check out my Patreon. I do post things here for free, and if there is a service you want, those are available as well as my Twitter account. I do post there throughout the day, and obviously all of that content is free as well. If you like trading stocks and options and making money, definitely like and subscribe. I make videos like this every single day that the markets are open, as well as Sundays, so make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Welcome to the Portfolio Bulletin. Let's get started. So let's take a look at the rules around this new mortgage fee. They say new home buyers with good credit scores are now facing this new federal rule where they're going to have to pay higher mortgage rates and fees to subsidize people with riskier credit. They say, for example, somebody with a credit score of 680 or higher is going to pay about $40 per month on a home loan of $400,000, which is pretty substantial. That's about an extra $500 a year. And if you're going to pay for this house over 30 years, that's a substantial amount of money that you're giving to the bank, additional to what you were paying already. And they say home buyers who make down payments of 15 to 20% are going to be socked with the largest fees. The senior loan officer from Bay Equity Home Loans says that it doesn't make sense to penalize borrowers with large down payments or good credit scores, and that it's going to overcomplicate things for the consumer. Obviously, this is the opposite of how it usually works. Usually, if you have good credit, you pay lower rates, but in this case, you're paying an additional fee if you're doing well with your finances. It doesn't help that mortgage rates are already very high, above 6%, and they've been fluctuating above 7% at times. Now we're effectively adding more costs to the mortgage borrower, and this money is just going to the bank to help subsidize loans. I don't really see how this is going to benefit lower income earners who are trying to buy houses. Usually you have to have that kind of money to put on a down payment anyway, or you're paying loan insurance, which is allowing less qualified borrowers to get mortgages. So effectively, we're just giving more money to the banks. So moving over to zero DTE options, most traders are losing money. Just recently, they started doing daily options, but before that, they did Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So zero DTE options happened 3 times a week, and now they're every single day for the SPY and the QQQ. And you can see here, traders are losing $358,000 per day on these options. You can see the graph, very negative here recently. Pretty interesting for me since I trade almost exclusively these options. I usually do 1 day or 0 day to expiration options, but I am an options seller, not usually an option buyer. Every once in a while I will, but for the most part I sell these options. If you're interested in learning how to trade these options, I do offer services on my Patreon. But anyway, zero DTE options, most traders lose money, but they're definitely an interesting investing vehicle. Moving over to the SPY here on the 30-minute and the 4-hour, you can see very choppy trading in here today. We came in, double topped early, moved lower, double bottomed with the pre-market lows and this low, and then we rallied up to resistance and then chopped sideways. Much different trading here today than what we've been seeing with these large sweeping moves up and down. Today, it was just a lot of chop right in this zone. Again, lots of buying at the end of day, which is interesting. Looking at the 4-hour chart here, you can see this long channel that we were in. We're kind of setting up a flag here, waiting to see if this is going to either just roll over and come down to around 402, or if this is going to set up at the 55, come in double top around 414.69. As of right now, it looks like a double top or a lower high setup is likely. It doesn't seem likely to me that this is just going to roll over and dip. So keep an eye on that. Momentum starting to fade into the bullish direction. RSI drifting sideways at the 50 level. Overall, finding some support here at the 55 EMA on the 4-hour chart. Moving over to the NASDAQ, same thesis here. You can see we came in, double topped early, overthrew the pre-market lows, came down, almost hit the 314 level, then rallied all the way to the open, came back down, tested this trend line, and then rallied again. Pretty tough trading in there today. Like I said, much tougher. Similar thesis on the 4-hour chart, still trending down here. But what I do want to highlight is that we didn't actually come down and test this lower trend support like we had done multiple days in a row until today. At this point, we came in a little bit higher, got very close to the 314 level. You can see that here, and then stopped at that point and then rallied. So we ended up making a slightly weaker push down Momentum on the 4-hour drifting towards the bullish direction. And ultimately, to me, this looks like we're probably going to come back up towards that 319.60 level. I know we've been drifting down and we are in a short-term bearish trend here, but as we come down, you want to see that test of the lower bound. And if it starts to pull up early, that's showing a little bit of strength. And right now, that's what I'm looking at going into the Monday session. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow here on the 4-hour, you can see the Russell came right into the tip of that wedge. Very interesting. Through a huge wick in both directions, and then ended up rallying to the upside at the end of the session. Momentum also drifting towards bullishness, got above the SMA here on RSI. Overall, looks slightly bullish, maybe looking up to 179.17. Definitely interesting. As long as we hold above 177.33 in the Monday session, I'll be bullish. Looking at the Dow, similar thesis, came down to the 55 EMA, looking to turn higher. Multiple wicks down to this 337 level. Every time we found support, and it does look like we're drifting higher here into the Monday session. Moving over to Apple and Tesla here. We talked about Apple having that high, lower high setup, and then in the pre-market here, it just dumped for no reason. I couldn't find any news about why this happened, but we went from 166.63 all the way down to that 162.98 level, right in that 163 zone. And then we rallied all the way back up to 166.45 and then finished here at 165.03. So big push down on Apple, definitely something I'll be watching going into the Monday session. This is a pretty significant shift compared to what we've been seeing. Last time we had a push like this, you can see we had a top, big red bar, and we got a continuation lower in the day following. So looking for this to push lower on Monday. If Apple is starting to head lower, that's going to be bad for markets. On the longer time frame, we still have a high, slightly higher high setup. If we have a low and this ends up being a higher low, then we could absolutely go higher on Apple, and this is just a short-term pullback. But I am definitely watching this going into the Monday session. Tesla, on the other hand, not showing much anything. High, lower high setup, breakdown below support. We did close just above the end of this wick, which is interesting, finding a little bit of support at that level. Momentum still bearish, tons of volume on the previous candle. To me, this looks like a short-term pullback, looking at 167.34. If we get above this level and we start to show some strength, maybe we fill this gap. That would be super interesting. But as long as we're below 167.34, I do suspect that we're probably going to come back and fill this gap down to 144. Moving over to Netflix and Google, you can see Netflix through another wick to this level, 322.29. This level continues to be very strong. We also have the 144 EMA sitting there and an area of highest volume, so very strong level. As long as this continues to hold, I think this is going to look bullish on Monday. We now have a double bottom with a lower high. And to me, like I said, this looks bullish, probably up to 338. Watching this one pretty closely. If we can get above the 21 EMA, I think we'll probably push up to the 55 EMA over the next couple days. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish, definitely watching Netflix here. Google, on the other hand, went straight sideways. So Google has earnings next week. I was watching this double bottom here, got the push higher. We're in consolidation now, waiting to see if this holds. You can see this area of highest volume sitting at 105.69. If this level holds and we start to push higher, maybe we get a rally into earnings. But overall, straight sideways on Google, which is interesting considering the outperformance that it had yesterday. Moving over to Etsy and AMD on the daily charts. I'm watching Etsy for this descending triangle, waiting to see if we can get a breakout and a push higher. Continuing to hold 150. As long as we stay above this level, we're intact. Waiting to see a break of this trend line, and then we're going to be looking to trade this to the bullish side. Momentum looking bullish. AMD, on the other hand, continuing to channel downwards. Being patient on this one. We hit the 55 EMA on the daily chart. Momentum still bearish. We'll look at semiconductors later. This one might be breaking down lower. So, like I said, patience here on AMD. Moving over to Amazon and LULU, you can see Amazon gapped up. Very interesting here. Big push to the upside. We closed yesterday at 103.83. And then here today, we closed at almost 107, right at the 200 SMA. Waiting to see what happens here, hit that resistance point. If this is an island reversal, that could be very bearish for the NASDAQ. This was one of the top performers in the NASDAQ, and obviously it has a huge market cap in the NASDAQ. So if this was propping up the markets and then we see this reverse going into Monday, that could be interesting. Right now it's above 105.60. I'll be watching that level. And then of course the 200 SMA here on the daily chart, very powerful level to watch. Definitely interesting here on Amazon. Moving over to LULU, we talked about a break of this trend line, came back, retested it, and pushed bullish here again into the close. LULU looks pretty bullish going into Monday, so I'll be watching this one closely as well. If the markets are starting to cool off and we still get outperformance from LULU, might be a better spot to put money going into that Monday session. Moving over to consumer staples and discretionary, you can see staples continuing to rally super aggressively. Still looking at 77.50 for my upside target. Still looks bullish. Did get into overbought conditions here on the 4 hour, so might see a little bit of a pullback, but overall still bullish. Discretionary, on the other hand, ended up bouncing here today, which is interesting. Markets were not super bullish, but discretionary came back into this zone. I added some trend lines here. You can see a little bit higher level for this wedge, and a little bit higher low side for this wedge as well. And right now it seems like we're still moving within these new levels, waiting to see if we can get above this. But we did come into that zone and find rejection. So if this breaks down here on Monday, that's probably going to be more bearish for stocks. Overall, slightly bullish on momentum, slightly bearish on RSI. So basically neutral on discretionaries. Moving over to semiconductors here today, you can see we got a huge continuation on that bear candle from the end of day yesterday. Gap down, pushed lower, took out the 248.10 level, found some support, got above it, retesting that level now. And look at this on the daily chart, right? So we're watching this head and shoulders. We're definitely drifting out of it now. We're below the 55 EMA on the daily chart. And if we get below this major trend line, that's going to be super bearish here in my opinion. Next lower level is 242.49. So overall, definitely bearish here on semiconductors. And this has been a very strong sector here. You can see RSI on the daily chart getting below that 50 line. Definitely looks weak going into Monday. So keep this one on your radar. Semiconductors definitely showing weakness going into next week. Finishing up here with the VIX for the charts, you can see we continue to drift slightly higher. Ended up making a slightly higher high versus yesterday and a slightly higher low as well, but we're still very low at 16.76. Really, you'd want to see this get above 18.5. If we get above that level, then we're starting to see a bigger move higher on the VIX. Also looking at 18 for this trend line, want to get above that level to show that this is more of an overthrow of this trend line, and then we're getting a bigger push up. That would be very bearish for stocks, but right now we have low volatility and we're just going sideways. Moving over to my accounts, I absolutely overtraded a bunch today, but still managed to make a little bit of money. You can see here it says $148. Early in the session, I took off my IWM position. And then as the market moved lower, I picked up a 174 put. And then I did end up rolling that up here at the end of day. The IWM looks relatively bullish going into the Monday session. So rolled that up to 176 for 46 cents, already in a small profit here. Definitely looks good. If everything goes well, we might see my IRA go into positive territory. That would be pretty crazy. Looking at the Qs here, still in a neutral to bullish position. I sold 2 of the 313 puts, small profit there already. I sold a 314 put right at that support level for 42 cents right at the end of day. We'll see how that one plays out. And then I have a 319 and 320 call. So overall, still trading it relatively neutral, but I do have one more put than call. So overall, slightly bullish, but mostly neutral. Let me know down in the comments section what you thought of the markets or the new mortgage rule or earnings so far. Definitely check out the Sunday video where we go into the longer term time frames on the charts and many of the charts that we can't get to every single day. So definitely check out the Sunday video. Tons of value in that video. And check out the Twitter as well as my Patreon. Definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. And make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.